In Project Elderwood, we needed a quick way to turn blockout meshes into something that wouldn't look out of place in the final environment. To do that, we created the quick Ruinify tool. The Ruinify tool, if we make a selection in the world and right-click the asset, we can say apply to the current selection. And this is going to apply some detailing to the mesh right out of the box. So we can see there's two overlapping meshes there, and now I'm going to go ahead and hide the source mesh. And you can see that it's generated a higher poly model with beveled edges, and it's applied an Unreal material to it. But that's not all it does, so let's go and have a look at the other settings that we have available to us. We can see we have a list of parameters here, and we're roughly going to work through them from top to bottom. To begin with, we can apply some fractures to the mesh. So if we turn on Do Fracture, we're going to see that this quickly segments the mesh up into a number of different parts. Now I just need to wiggle the lights around to get that to update again, and you can see that we've got a very crude but somewhat effective kind of breaking up of this mesh here. We can decrease or increase the number of fractures. Set this to 10 instead. And there's a difference between minor fractures and major fractures. So if we create major fractures, they're going to create larger splits, and then the minor fractures are going to cause those broken components to split into more smaller subcomponents. So we see we have a little bit of control over how this object gets broken up. Okay. So the next thing we're going to look at is the do break function. So if we just turn this on, we're going to see that this throws everything apart by too much. And essentially it's just a little sort of explosion that happens that pushes all of the pieces slightly away from each other. So very basic, no simulation involved, just something to help break up the silhouette a little bit more. Then there's a toggle called metal fractures, so we can try and turn this on and see what happens next. And what the metal fractures is doing is it's trying to turn this into one cohesive piece of geometry while still preserving some of the splits. We're nearly at the end of the settings now. We can just turn on Do Chip, and this is going to add some detailing and edge wear around the edges. So we'll have a look at how this was set up in Houdini as well. This one takes a little bit longer. Here we go. We can see this one adds quite a lot of detail there to the edges. And then finally, the deposition. So if we turn on Do Deposit, then what this is going to do is it's going to sort of puff up the upwards facing normals a little bit of the geometry, soften them out, and it's going to add a different vertex color to them so that we can blend in moss, or in this case dirt, and that produces the final result. One last feature of the quick Ruinify tool is the ability to go and add a shape into the world, such as this sphere. And then if we scale this up and position it over the ruin, if we go back to the HDA, look through the parameters and find the second world input, we can click Start Selection, select the sphere, and then select Use Current Selection. And if we go and hide the sphere and wait for this to recook, then what we're going to see is that it allows you to remove some pieces from the model. And if you're left with these little floating regions, then what we can do is you can either modify the sphere position, or you can go ahead and give it a small parts threshold, which is going to result in some of these smaller pieces being removed from the model. So we can go ahead, find the right value. There we go. So now we have a broken ruin, which we got from a low poly scan in a matter of moments. And let's go ahead and bake this into the content browser. So we find the last parameter where it says the output, material, bake folder, and name. I'm going to say ruined arch. And then once we're happy, we can go ahead and hit bake. And then if we press Control B on this asset, you can see that we now have a new ruined arch asset. And as you can see, I generated one before this as well. So at the moment, the behavior of the baking is that it will produce variants of this asset. And you can very quickly go through and create a bunch of different objects from your very simple starting blockout mesh. All right, so in the next videos, we're going to go through the scene inside of Houdini and going to look at how we set this up step by step.